this question goes to Carly Fiorina. In the last debate, you said as part of your introduction, quote, "And unlike the other woman candidate in this race, I actually love spending time with my husband."
He's right there. He's right there.
But back in September, in an interview, you said that you would stick only to the record, your record versus Hillary Clinton's record, and never resort to personal attacks. So what changed?
It wasn't a personal attack. I was pointing out the fact that Hillary Clinton will do anything to gain and hang on to power. Anything. Listen, if my husband did what Bill Clinton did, I would have left him long ago. So here's the deal. Here's the deal. Hillary Clinton has been climbing the ladder to try and get power, and here now she is trying for the White House. She's probably more qualified for the big house. Honestly, she's escaped prosecution more times than El Chapo. Perhaps Sean Penn should interview her. The woman should be prosecuted. But while Mrs. Clinton has flown hundreds of thousands of miles around the globe, I have too, and I know that flying is an activity, not an accomplishment. While I know that she has held many positions and many titles, she has not accomplished much of anything in her life. She's gotten every single foreign policy challenge wrong, and she continues to lie to the American people. You see, it's called the Clinton way. Both Bill and Hillary practice it, the Clinton way. Say whatever you have to say, do whatever you have to say, lie as long as you can get away with it. Hillary Clinton cannot be the president of these United States.
All right, Carly, I want to stay with you on this next question as well. You waded into the Planned Parenthood video story early on. You took some heat for it. Now the people who shot that undercover video are the ones who got indicted, and Planned Parenthood is untouched. Hillary Clinton's been crowing about this. Any regrets about this?
Well, you know, Hillary Clinton hasn't been indicted either. So that tells us a lot about our justice system in this country. But look, the facts of Planned Parenthood have not changed, folks. And I will not be rendered silent on this issue or any other issue, and it doesn't matter what stage I'm on. Here are the facts. Planned Parenthood engages in partial birth abortion, in late-term abortion. They alter those abortion techniques to harvest and sell body parts. They have admitted that they're not going to accept compensation for this anymore. The reality is most Americans find this practice horrific. Most Americans find horrific that Hillary Clinton's position on this is it's not a life until it's born. Most Americans find horrific Hillary Clinton's position, or the Democrat Party's position, that a young woman does not need her mother's permission to get an abortion. But if you're 13 years old, you can get an abortion, but you can't go to a tanning salon without your mother's permission. In a President Fiorina budget, there will not be one dime for Planned Parenthood, although there would be a lot of money for women's health, and we will finally pass the Pain-Capable Unborn Child Protection Act. I will always stand for life and religious liberty because this is about the character of our nation.
Thank you, Carly Fiorina. Let me just ask a quick question here to Senator Santorum. Carly Fiorina was the only one of the GOP candidates to attend the March for Life in Washington last week. Where were you?
Well, I've been to the March for Life for about 25 years, and I think that's a pretty good record. Spoken at it a few times, and I have shepherded every single pro-life piece of legislation that's passed over the last 20 years. I've either authored it or shepherded it through the United States Congress, and I'm pretty proud of that record, too. But we have an election going on, and there was some snow coming. And so I decided that maybe it would be better for me to get out and do some campaigning and not be stuck, as my wife and kids were for a week, piling out of 2.5 feet of snow. So here's what I would say. If you want someone that's going to talk a good game, there are a lot of folks on this stage that have talked a good game on the issue of life. Not only have I talked a good game on life, and I've done some things, but I've also lived it. You know, one of the things St. Francis said was, you know, if you preach the gospel, and if you have to, speak. Bottom line is that twice in my life we were counseled to have an abortion, one with our son Gabriel and one with our little girl Bella. And neither time did Karen and I even for a moment think about it, because we know that life begins at conception. We know the dignity of every human life, and we know the potential of every child, no matter how long that life lives. And that is a message that can come across to all Americans and without having to say a word and defend the institution of life and the dignity of life in this country.
Thank you,
Martha?
Yes, sorry.
Martha, can I just say, we've been talking tonight about a lot of issues, and we've also been talking about the fact that the game is rigged, and frankly, the media has a lot to do with that. It is outrageous, frankly, that Fox News and you would question the pro-life credentials of Rick Santorum. That is outrageous.
Thank you, Ms. Fiorina. Governor Gilmore. Who are the moderate Muslims? Who are the moderate Muslims you seek advice and counsel from on how to deal with the threat from radical Islamic terrorism?
You know, Bill, that raises, I think, the question of the future of the Republican Party. The question is, first of all, I stand second to no one in standing up to radical Islamism. I understand that ISIS is a piece of that, but it is a worldwide phenomenon that has manifested itself in Paris, at 9/11, at San Bernardino, in Boston. I recognize all of that. But I also recognize this. This is a strain of Islamism that cannot be supported and cannot be stood for. And what we need is for people in the Muslim community in the United States to stand up and be counted and to say that this is not right. This is not right. And yes, I have met with some people, and I'm not going to identify who they are. I met with them last week, and they told me some terrible stories about how they have been harassed and their children have seen them be harassed. And I said to them, you have got to stand up and condemn this radical Islamism, because it's the war of ideas that we're going to have to win to go along with our military conflicts that are coming forward. But the point is, Bill, we cannot have a Republican Party that scapegoats anyone, Hispanics, Muslims, any women, African Americans, anyone. If that becomes the future of the Republican Party, I don't want to be a part of that.
Thank you, Governor. Governor Huckabee, here in Iowa, 43% of Democratic caucus goers describe themselves as socialist. That's a higher number than those who say they are capitalists. Guess you could say they're feeling the burn. This is a country rooted in capitalism, the United States of America. How did we get here?
I honestly don't understand how anybody with IQ above plant life would honestly think that we would be better off if we let the government have all of the private property and that the government would dole out what they thought we should have. I'm not feeling the burn, Bill. I'm not feeling it. And when Bernie Sanders promises these kids free college, I'm telling them, because I get asked, what about free college? I said, look, if we give you free college when you're 20, pal, you're going to be paying for it when you're 30, when you're 40, and when you're 50. There is no such thing as the government giving you anything. They will definitely make a mess of it. And I just think there are a lot of people who have never understood the basic understanding of economics, that you do not make people rich by tearing down those who are providing jobs, and you don't help poor people by taking away. You give them jobs, let them work, let them earn, and then you let them keep the money that they earned. That's how we build a great economy.
Thank you, Governor. Senator Santorum, the president says politics in America have become meaner over the past several years with him in the White House. 2 weeks ago at the State of the Union, he said the following: a president with the gifts of Lincoln or Roosevelt might have better bridged the divide. Lincoln and Roosevelt. It's pretty good company. If he is right, do Republicans share some of the blame?
The President of the United States has been the most divisive president, and certainly in my lifetime. This is a man who constantly... He is not trustworthy. You can't sit down and negotiate with him. He won't keep a deal. We've heard that over and over again. And here's what he does that really creates the friction in Washington. He personally attacks people. He ascribes motives to them that aren't true, and then he tears them down. How are you going to work with someone if you don't treat them decently, honestly, and respectfully? I was a tough fighter when I was in Washington, D.C. I had very sharp elbows. I fought. I went there and joined a guy named Jim Nussle here from Iowa with a gang of 7. And we, in 4 years' time, took a Congress that had been controlled by Democrats for 40 years and brought in the first Republican majority because we fought, and we fought tough. But you know what? I was able to then work with those same people that we fought with and able to pass welfare reform, Unborn Victims of Violence Act, pro-life bills, health savings accounts, a whole laundry list of things, not because I was mean, but because I was able to be respectful in the disagreements. And that's what we need in Washington, someone who can be respectful and still unite this country.
Thank you, Senator.
All right, coming up, we will have the closing statements from our candidates tonight as we continue live from the Iowa Event Center in Des Moines. We'll be right back.